What's going on YouTube? It's TH back again with another video. Today we're talking about the Tennessee Titans in our season preview series, and hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you do, be sure to hit that like button, it'll help me out a ton. If you're new around here, want to see more sports content, just hit that big red subscribe button. Tell me what you think about the Titans down below in the comment section. You know, can they repeat as division champs? How many wins do you think they get? Who are some X factors, and what are some games you're looking forward to watching Tennessee play this year? Love to have your thoughts, and I respond to just about every comment. So let's talk about the Titans down below. New to the series, this is the second to last team, so go back and check out our previous videos, maybe your favorite teams in their division rival, or you just want to see more football content as we get ready and have made it to week 1. So 7 to 10 wins. I got the Titans at 7, so I am definitely on the lower side on the outlook for Tennessee. I just have a lot of questions about the totality of the roster. I'll kind of go position group by position group here and give you a feel for where I think some of the issues are. So, you know, Ryan Tannehill, a limited quarterback in and of itself, right? So that's a tough place to beginning. But all in all, you know, with a good surrounding environment, good ecosystem for him to play in, he can be good. I just think that ecosystem's taken a big enough hit. Taylor Lewan struggled a little bit last year. Competition at that right tackle spot feels like Nicholas Petit-Frere, we'll talk about later on, has earned that spot. So a rookie starting offensive line. And, you know, Ben Jones is solid at center, but all in all, that interior offensive line has gotten a little bit worse year over year. Maybe Nate Davis takes another step forward, and again, Ben Jones could have, you know, a career year for all we know. But some question marks across the offensive line. You know, obviously Derrick Henry's a stud, but you know, running backs do depend on that O-line quite a bit. And then the wide receiver spot, obviously the departure of A.J. Brown is a massive one. Treylon Burks is a bit of a concern for me right now. A hard time staying on the field, and even when he does, not getting the separation. And yeah, there are some concerns there, but there's also some throws where, you know, Malik Willis just didn't see Treylon Burks open down the field in the preseason. So it could really bounce either way, but I'm a little more skeptical. And you also have Robert Woods coming off an ACL injury, which those have become relatively routine. But that being said, that is still a bit of a question that needs an answer. And then, you know, at the tight end spot, Austin Hooper's, you know, fine. Jeff Swain, is okay as a serviceable backup. So the offense is okay. The defense is where I get a little more excited because Danico Autry, Jeffrey Simmons has taken a step forward to become one of the best interior disruptors in the game. Bud Dupree, Harold Landry feels like it has more name value as an edge duo than it does actual production. Landry's this guy who, looking at his Pro Football Focus grades, has a production of 14 sacks last year, but you know, playing almost nearly 1,000 snaps year in and year out. You know, he just never leaves the field. And then Dupree, kind of the opposite, didn't see the field a whole lot last year. So can he be healthy? And still kind of living off that one big year in Pittsburgh at the, you know, his last year with the Steelers that ultimately got him the big contract in Tennessee. David Long Jr. we'll talk about later. Zach Cunningham still a thumper there in the middle to pair with him. And the secondary is one that I like a lot. So you have Caleb Farley, who started to have a nice end of the preseason, and dude, the talent is not the issue for this former first rounder at Virginia Tech. And on the other side, Christian Fulton, as a 4th round pick, has 100% earned a starting spot on the outside. So like the talent of that duo, but Fulton legitimately has become a really nice player, and he could take a step forward this year and become like a star level name. And then Elijah Molden, there's that nickel, you know, this new age nickel, but strong safety, but they already have Monty Hooker, who's a great strong safety. So having Molden play the nickel spot, slot corner position, he's great there. Again, Hooker, can't sing his praises enough. And Kevin Byard is one of the most underrated players in the NFL as a true, you know, deep free safety. Huge impact in coverage, and again, one of the most underrated players in the league, in my opinion. So there's things I like. I'm encouraged by the defense. Mike Vrabel, of course, still there, you know, former defensive player. So, you know, feel good about, you know, his hand on that defense. But also he just feels like one of those guys, kind of Tomlin-esque, where finds a way, maximizes the talent on the roster, and wins more games than the roster maybe has any business achieving. So 7 wins, I'll probably be wrong here, but right now I have them as the runner-up in the AFC South behind the Colts. But it's totally up for grabs. So realistic goal, then a reach goal. Realistic goal, let's return to a top 10 defense. You know, just outside of that a year ago, but I think, you know, with a year's time, you get right back into that mix. And again, the talent is there, and you get a step forward, more Bud Dupree this year, and Harold Landry becomes slightly more efficient. Little tweaks here and there, and that defense is 100% right back in the top 10. And then reach goal, offense returns to 2020 status, going to Pro Football Focus grade. They were a top 3 offense and overall offense grade. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. Again, considering I have some concerns across the offensive line, the wide receivers worry me, and you know, it's Ryan Tannehill, who's a guy who needs good support around him. So, you know, I don't think this is overly likely, but I can't rule it out. It's not impossible. I just wouldn't personally bet on it. But if that offense does return to, you know, top 10, you know, level, even if it's not top 3, top 10 status with that defense, this team could absolutely win their division. So again, if the offense is back to where it was, you know, year 2 as an offensive coordinator for Todd Downing goes a little smoother, then I think this team really has I don't want to say a perfect or a completely clean path to winning the division, because I still like the Colts, but if that offense is better than I expect, then absolutely this team's a contender. So moving on to X factors, and this is kind of where we get into some of those guys that I think could take that offense back to a top 10 unit. And for these X factors, I'm not putting superstars in here again. Jeffrey Simmons is an absolute animal. Derrick Henry is one of one at the running back position. Those guys are studs. I don't expect a whole lot of variance. There's just levels of good for those guys. These are the players who need to step up. They have sizable roles ahead of them, and if they fall short of the expectations those roles come with, the Titans are going to struggle. But if they exceed it and are better than I expect, then this Titans team could absolutely win the division. So Treylon Burks, enough. It's already been said there. Again, some weight concerns. Can he stay on the field? Those were some of the early reports that, limited reps because, the conditioning's not 100% there. And then, struggles to create separation, especially when working out of the slot, which is where he played at Arkansas. So feels like there's just a little bit more time necessary for this, rebuild, just kind of like how with the Packers and Christian Watson. That was a raw player who just needed time, and that's why you haven't heard a whole lot. He's also been hurt. So maybe it's the same thing with Treylon Burks, and by the back half of this year, he's fully integrated in the offense, and he's a freak, and he takes over for that A.J. Brown spot. Not saying it's impossible, but that's what Tennessee's going to need, because otherwise, again, you're relying on Robert Woods and Westbrook Akina, and just not a whole lot of household names. Woods is good, but coming off that injury, I think it's fair to expect at least a half step down. And still, he's a receiver into his 30s and looks really good with, Sean McVay's offense. What is his role and how much is he maximized by Todd Downing, too? So Burks definitely has a big-time role this year, and he will be a huge, pointer in which way the Titans' offense goes compared to last year. Also, Nicholas Petit-Frere and Dylan Radunz will as well. That's as much as I do have some concerns in the interior offensive line. Ben Jones is there in the middle. You feel like he'll solidify and put a high baseline there. And also Nate Davis has plenty of fans, So that's up for your judgment. That right tackle spot's easily the one where you look at and it's like, hey, that's a weak link unit. It's a weak link sport. Where's the weak link? And with Dylan Radunz struggles this preseason, been well documented. Nicholas Petit-Frere, as a day 2 rookie, has seemingly claimed that spot. Now, that could be good news for Petit-Frere, or that could just be a state on how rough that position is right now. Like, if Radunz struggles, then it's just like, well, I guess we have to throw Nicholas Petit-Frere in there. That changes your outset and your outlook on this team compared to, hey, Radunz hasn't been good, but dude, Nicholas Petit-Frere has been awesome, so no problem at all. How you say that comes with two very different connotations. So we'll have to wait and see. If Petit-Frere holds his own at right tackle, then I feel pretty good about this offensive line, specifically in pass protection. Tannehill's mobile, but the cleaner you keep him, the better he'll play. That's quarterbacks 101. But if he struggles, then yikes, this could be a rough year, especially if Taylor Lewan is injured or continues some of the downswing in production that he had last year. Also with Radunz, it's interesting. If he doesn't play right tackle, could you move him in to play left guard over Aaron Brewer? If so, okay, then I think that interior offensive line might get a little bit better. Some of the concerns with Radunz naturally coming through the draft, but even this preseason have been with his playing strength and maybe not being able to stick a tackle, but make him, an agile guard, power blocking scheme. Still doesn't feel like a great fit, but it might be a little bit easier for him to handle. And then lastly, David Long Jr., really good athlete and overall solid player going into year 4, and year over year, his Pro Football Focus grades have improved. So you like to see that linear progression. So that's an encouraging sign. And he has a big role because Zach Cunningham does not do a whole lot in coverage, but still one of the better run-stopping inside linebackers, those old-school thumpers. Now they usually David Long to be the coverage specialist, the speedy guy who can make an impact in the passing game as the complement. So I'm not saying this is unlikely. I feel, honestly, of these three, wide receiver with Treylon Burks, right tackle spot, whoever it ends up being, feels like Petit-Frere right now, and then David Long at inside linebacker. I'm probably the most optimistic, to be honest with you, about David Long, just because we've seen that, path of progression. And he has Zach Cunningham next to him, which their skill sets line up pretty well to where it's a defined role for David Long to thrive in. So I'm actually really optimistic. And again, also head coach is a former inside linebacker, feels like a pretty good guy to work with day in and day out. So optimistic about David Long, and if he takes that step forward, continues that progression, the Titans defense is just that much more legit. So moving on to games to watch, no division games in here. Those are obviously all massive ones for the sake of that division. It's going to be razor close between the Titans and the Colts. So two games that definitely would be included otherwise. But week 3 against the Raiders, and a common thread between the Raiders and Chiefs, whichever one of those two teams, and also throw the Chargers in the mix. But looking at the Titans' schedule, the team that doesn't win the AFC West is going to be a potential wild card threat to steal that spot away from the Titans. But if Tennessee wins the AFC South and one of those two teams wins the West, it could be, seeding implications 1 through 4. Keep in mind, Tennessee, I may be low on them this year. They were the 1 seed last year, so anything is possible. But the Raiders also present an interesting matchup where, Raiders have been making a lot of moves, here at cut day. But none of them have really been to strengthen the roster in a lot of ways, which is interesting. It's cutting an Alex Leatherwood. It's moving on from a Trayvon Mullen. And that Raiders run defense looked bad. And that's the biggest strength of the Tennessee offense, right? Just give the ball to Derrick Henry and stop thinking. So this could be a game where Derrick Henry goes crazy, carries the offense, and, the Titans get a big win against a, potential double-digit win type of opponent in the Raiders and maybe a playoff team in Las Vegas. So that being said, it's also a game where, moving on from Trayvon Mullen, I'm only that much more concerned about what the cornerback room looks like in Vegas. So can this be a game where we see Treylon Burks have a big game? Can Robert Woods shine in this one? That's going to be a fun one. On the other side, though, dude, Caleb Farley or Christian Fulton against Devontae Adams. Can one of those young corners come up in a big game? Can't wait to see that. Also, bad offensive line for the Raiders. So can Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, whoever's not going against Colton Miller, can they be productive? So a lot of different things I'm looking for in this one, but this could be where some of the strengths of the Titans really shine. Then week 9 against the Chiefs, really good offensive line. So kind of a counterpoint here where, I'm not as thrilled about the matchups for a Dupree and a Harold Landry. So what does that mean against, that secondary for Tennessee? And this was, a Titans defense that had one of the loudest statements last year. Embarrassing, it wasn't on primetime or anything, but that was when, that win against the Chiefs last year was one of the, light bulb moments for people like, okay, Kansas City's offense is not the same. This is not the same team it's been for years prior. So that was one of those games, and that was when people started to say, oh, dude, it's too high, a lot of cover 2, cover 4. This could work against Kansas City. So, what's the next adjustment? The Chiefs are ready for that adjustment, and they've already started to game plan how to beat those too high looks. So what's the adjustment to the adjustment? I can't wait to find that out, but especially if the Titans can't generate pass rush, as much as I like that secondary, they might be left out to dry against Patrick Mahomes, Sky Moore, Travis Kelce, Juju Smith-Schuster and company. So going to be a fun battle there, and if the Titans can get just enough pass rush, that might hold off that Kansas City offense. And then lastly, the Dallas Cowboys, not a division game, but like the Chiefs, it's a primetime game, so national rhetoric. These are the games that really fuel those fires. So, how do the Titans look against the Chiefs? That'll be a huge talking point the week after. And then in specific, this week 17 game, we're talking about, 15 games into the season. So what if the Titans have an 8-7 record? This game will be huge for their bubble watch prospects, or even more so if they're 7-8, right? So that's going to be a game where it's like, hey, the Titans are trying to make their last push, whether it's for the division or the wild card. This is a national game where they're trying to make that late push, and the Cowboys might be doing the same exact thing. These two teams, in a lot of ways, for me, it's the Titans probably battling for the division crown, which in a lot of ways is the most up for grabs that there is, considering it's only up for really 2 teams in that division. But then you look at the NFC and the wild card spot, that 7 seed, I think it comes down to the Cowboys and the Vikings. So Titans battling the Colts, Cowboys battling the Vikings, at least in my eyes, for paths to the playoffs. This game's going to be huge for each of those 2 teams. So what do we see on the field? Season on the line, that's football at its best, right? So this could be an awesome game, and plus some of the X's and O's and matchups, again, really intriguing once you get to the one-on-ones. But we'll have to see where those 2 teams are at health-wise and, what young players are standing out. So week 17, these 2 teams could look completely different. But that's going to do it for my season preview for the Tennessee Titans. Tell me what you think about this squad down below in the comment section. Do you think they repeat as division champs? How many wins do you think they come away with? Who are some X factors and some games you're looking forward to watching Tennessee play this year? Love to have your thoughts. It's a conversation down below, and I respond to just about every comment. So let's talk about the Titans down in the comments section. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, seriously, it would help me out a ton if you would hit that like button. If you're new around here, like what you saw, want to see more of it, just hit that big red subscribe button and help us keep growing. And that's going to do it for me. Hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.